Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and I'm really excited today to be checking out a new Harley Benton, the MR Modern. I've never owned a Mosrite guitar, which is a little bit weird because I've played in surf bands for many years in Southern California before moving out here to Florida, so this is going to be a very, very fun experience for me. This is the guitar itself. I went with the blue. I thought, you know what, kind of matches my style. I'm really, really into it. So let's get it on the bench and let's have a closer look. All right, everybody, before we go over this absolutely stunning instrument, there is a little bit of play wear and pick marks on this guitar, but it is from me. When this guitar was in customs, they took it out of the original Tolman packaging, put it in a makeshift box from UPS that was barely taped up, and, well, when I saw it, I was kind of freaked out, so I rushed to take it out to make sure there was no damage, and I couldn't resist the urge to play it. So, that out of the way here. The most interesting thing to me that popped out are these pickups. These are soap bar sized P90 pickups, but they're not really P90s. They are humbuckers. That's really interesting. Normally you're going to see that the other way around. Companies like Seymour Duncan make a Fat Cat, which is a humbucker sized P90. Lindy Freeland also have their take on it. I thought it was pretty cool and pretty unique to see it the other way around. Other than that, we have the Wilkinson WVS50 bridge. This is the same one that comes on the Fusion 3, so I'm already pretty familiar with that. It's a really solid piece of gear. You have a push-pull here on the tone pop to engage the single coil mode, one master volume, and a three-way toggle switch. All right, this neck is made of Canadian maple. It is an ebony variant on the fingerboard, and it has these 22 blacksmith stainless steel frets on it. Those frets are a little bit rougher than the ones on the Fusion 3, but when you consider this a $325 guitar, very, very good. I've played guitars that are twice as much money that have worse fretwork on them from some of the bigger brands. The radius on this is a 12-inch radius. You have the Graphtec nut here, and this neck feels pretty good. We're gonna measure it in a second to get the exact kind of dimensions at the 1st and the 12th fret, but before we do that, let's see how level the frets are. A little high. A little high there too. Okay, so you had two high frets a little bit right around there, and I believe it was this fret right here. Was that this fret? Yep, right there. But overall, really good, and they're not so high that it's like gonna need immediate attention to it. So I think we're gonna be all good to play this thing, and I didn't notice it when I was actually sitting and jamming with it before I started filming this. All right, let's measure this neck. 0.82 at the 1st fret, 9.0 at the 12th fret. Now, I will admit, I am a sucker for a matching headstock on an offset instrument. This one, though, it has a little bit of paint imperfections here and there. This is something that really won't bother me, but I like to give people an idea of what they might be able to expect when it comes to the quality control. It's nothing that's going to impact the way this guitar plays, but it's not a super flawless job in that sense on this side of it. But the rest of it is pretty darn good. There's nothing worth moving the camera to show you. The main things are kind of right there. But again, this is really nitty-gritty with the camera up close and not hiding anything. All right, and checking out this headstock here. This is a made in Indonesia instrument. It has these Kluson style Wilkinson locking vintage tuners. That's pretty cool. And then if you look here at the actual neck, you can see some light flaming in it, and that is unexpected but very welcomed in my book. All right, my first impressions of this instrument overall, really good. It does have a few little cosmetic issues, and one thing I didn't notice until I had the strings off and really looked at this under the light, there's a few almost little divots in this fingerboard, so I didn't notice it when I was giving it my first initial kind of playthrough here. We'll see if it's something I notice in the long term sitting doing this sound demo and how things will go as far as the feel wise, because as long as it feels good, I'm not going to be too worried about it. It's got a decent weight to it, 8 pounds 10 ounces, 3.94 kilograms. I'm getting better at the translation. Oddly enough, it weighs more than my Les Paul Standard. However, I'm excited to play it. Just got to throw some strings on it, and we'll get started with the sound demos. Alright everybody, I just got done playing this Harley Benton MR Modern for Mosrite. I got a few positives and a few negatives, but overall, that was a really strange experience for me. It's the first time in almost 6 or 7 months that I've done a demo via plugins. By the time I got this guitar at 7 p.m., I wasn't able to really give this the proper treatment through the amp because I got a little one sleeping in the other room. But you're not here to hear about that. You're here to hear about this guitar. There are some positives and there are some negatives, unfortunately, that need to be addressed. The first positive is I really love how they nailed the aesthetic of this guitar. I really love the neck of this guitar, although it's not something that I would have thought on paper had I known all the specifications I would have loved. It's definitely modern and you feel the flatter radius, and you know, I typically play the flattest radius is a Gibson of a 12, but it's kind of got a little more shoulders to it, a little more chunk. This one feels a little bit more on the modern side, hence the name Express. But the frets in particular, I didn't polish these frets. Sometimes I do that when I get these guitars in before I actually do the playthrough, and they were really well done. So I have to give Harley Benton a lot of credit on that. The other real big positive I have is when you split this into the single coil mode, I think it's my favorite mode on this instrument, unless you were gonna go for higher gain stuff, but I kind of steered away for that for the sound samples because once you start to introduce a ton of gain, it's hard to tell what guitar is which and the characteristics kind of get lost in the ether, so to speak. Now, there's only two things I really have to complain about with this guitar. Both of them have to do with the actual electronics. First of all, this push-pull pot here is extremely noisy and staticky and scratchy when you're switching in between or altering the amount of tone on it. I know that this is a one-off on this, and the good news is this is a problem that is very inexpensive to mitigate. You're talking about a $12 part if you wanted to throw in a super high-end push-pull switch, if you wanted to keep in these pickups or pickups that were splittable. That leads me to the second thing I didn't love about this guitar, and that was the pickups when they were in the full-on humbucking mode. I would have preferred if this thing was just straight up 2 P90s. I know that the whole basis of this guitar was to be modern, and I love the other modern appointments. I love the locking tuners. I love the stainless steel frets. Like I said, I can't believe how good these felt without a polish, just straight out of the box. Very impressed by that. But the electronics are the only thing that kind of let me down a little bit in that mode. If it was up to me and I was going to take this guitar right now to go play, I would put it into single coil mode and I would just leave it there for the entire gig. But as I've said in a few of these Harley Benton demos, if the biggest problem I have with an instrument are the electronics, whether it's the pots or the pickups themselves, then I'm in really good shape because those things are easily replaceable, whereas the actual neck, the stuff like that, the fretwork, that can also be altered, but when you start with a really good baseline of that, you're ahead of the curve in my aspect, and the quality assurance on this guitar was pretty good minus the visual blemishes, the way it was actually put together, nothing to complain about on that end of it. So for me, this one, maybe I got a little unlucky with the push-pull pot, but I have a bunch lying around. I'm not going to complain to Toman about it. I'm totally cool with replacing it on my own, but you know, one day further down the road, maybe just a set of real P90 pickups and I will call it a day. However, that's all I have for you guys today. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this guitar. Let me know what you thought about the demo, all of those kinds of things. I love hearing from you guys. If you had ordered one, if you had received it, let me know. Dave had picked up the baritone version of this, so we're going to be having a little bit of content compilations between me and him with my regular scale MR and his baritone scale. So we look forward to doing that stuff and getting some more kind of sound samples and advice from you guys for what we think about these guitars. However, that's where I'm leaving you today. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow for a different guitar-related video. Take it easy, everybody.